All right, so you've got those first 4 books of Xenophon's Anabasis, right?
Yeah, ready to go.
Perfect. Let's dive deep into it then. It's a wild ride. We're talking ancient Greece, Greek soldiers fighting their way across Persia, betrayal, bravery, you name it, Anabasis has got it. But,
I was going to say it's quite the story.
oh, absolutely. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of Xenophon's account, let's set the stage a bit. We're in the wake of the Peloponnesian War, which basically turned ancient Greece upside down.
Exactly. It was a time of huge upheaval. Imagine, like, city-states pitted against each other, economies in ruins. For skilled soldiers especially, it was like, what now? No jobs, disillusionment all around.
And that's where the whole mercenary thing comes in, right?
Exactly. You've got these powerful empires like Persia loaded, and they need skilled soldiers. And you've got Greeks who know how to fight and are desperate for work. It's a recipe for, well, exactly what we see in the Anabasis.
Makes sense. And this is where Xenophon, our author, comes in. By the way, this grammar guide we're using is awesome for anyone who really wants to dig into the original Greek.
Oh yeah, it's a lifesaver, honestly.
But anyway, back to Xenophon. What I find fascinating is that he wasn't just some historian sitting in an ivory tower. This guy was a soldier himself, a student of Socrates, even a philosopher.
Yeah, talk about a Renaissance man, right?
Yeah.
But all joking aside, you're right. His background is super important to understanding the Anabasis. He wasn't just there to record facts and figures. He brought this whole other level of analysis to it.
Because of his philosophy background, you mean?
Exactly. He's constantly analyzing leadership, for instance, showing both the good and the bad, the strategies that worked, and the ones that backfired spectacularly.
And that makes the Anabasis more than just a war story.
Right. Like, he's really trying to understand what makes a good leader, especially in tough situations. It's about adaptability, strategic thinking, understanding what makes people tick. Stuff that's still relevant today.
Totally. But let's not forget, the Anabasis is also an incredible adventure story. These mercenaries faced unbelievable challenges. Deserts, mountains, hostile armies, you name it. What were some of the biggest hurdles they had to overcome, would you say?
Oh, man. Where do I even start? Imagine marching thousands of miles through hostile territory, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're dealing with scorching heat, freezing cold, running out of food and water constantly.
And never knowing who to trust.
Exactly. The threat of betrayal is always looming. Xenophon doesn't sugarcoat any of it. He shows their courage, their smarts on the battlefield, but also how brutal and unforgiving war can be. He doesn't shy away from the human cost.
And you can really see that in the way he describes certain battles. Like, remember that passage we were looking at in the grammar guide, the one where the Greeks pretend to retreat and lure the Persians into a valley?
Oh yeah, classic maneuver.
What I found fascinating was how the guide broke down the Greek strategy. It wasn't just a desperate move, it was a calculated tactic, using the terrain to their advantage.
Absolutely. They were often outnumbered, so they had to be smarter, more cunning. That feigned retreat, it was risky, but it played on the Persians' expectations and totally turned the tables.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Some things never change. The challenges these soldiers faced, the decisions they made, that raw determination, it's still relevant today.
100%.
As you read deeper into the Anabasis, think about this. How do the things Xenophon writes about leadership, cultural clashes, the impact of war, how do they connect to our world today? It's something to keep in mind.